Greetings, adventure travelers and fellow keepers of the lake. How are you all doing? Welcome. As promised, we continue talking about props, handouts, how to make the game bleed into the real world. This episode in particular will be about paper handouts, so making journals, letters, maps, that sort of stuff. I'm not gonna go into the DIY part where I show you how to make these things, but I'm here to get your gears turning, to show you what exists, to point into some resources that helped me. Let's go and visit
the magical Varloki Prop Emporium. The Varloki.
Okay, welcome back. Let's discuss all of the things happening here. So when talking about paper props and handouts, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is something that we've all been doing for a long time, and those are maps. So the easiest thing would be to have just a printed out map, right? Again, character sheets are somewhat of a handout, aren't they? So character sheets that are, for example, a bit more stylized for your characters, for pre-gens, for example, or are custom ones made to be easier to use, are also some effort that you can put into the game for the players to feel either more immersed, like have better spatial awareness, or just make it easier for them. Like the original Call of Cthulhu character sheet, I think I have it somewhere. There it is. I mean, this is Pulp Cthulhu, but you get the point. It leaves something to be desired. It's not really something that makes you say, wow, what a easy to play game. But when you see like the cleaned up version, it is much more appealing. So handouts can be some utility things. Like I said, maps, you can even laminate them. And then if they are empty on the other side, they double as a whiteboard. Buy some whiteboard markers, you can draw your own maps on one side, you have the city map on the other side, and you can still label things with the dry erase markers. So that's awesome. Your players ask you for a house, well, get a house building game on Steam. I think I used Dungeon, Adventure, Craft, something. I will put it in the description and you can check it out. I used it to make these maps of houses, and the players love them. Just print it out. It's cheap as hell. Like, why not? So yeah, more city maps. Then world maps. Of course you need world maps, but I would not advise you make encounter maps. If you're playing in person, use terrain or draw it. Encounter maps are one-off things that you might not use. For that, I would just recommend using the big book of battle maps. I know it's a bit steep in terms of price, especially if you're getting a couple of them. They stack wonderfully, so you have a lot of different maps inside. Just use this. Don't bother printing out a map for every game. I mean, you can if you like doing so. Wonderful. Maybe you can hide some Easter eggs and maybe some campaign-specific things, and the players will love it. But bear in mind, encounter maps can do this thing where they tell the player a bit too much, or at least the player thinks they are getting information solely from the map and they forget to ask the DM for things like, hey, is there a torch on this wall? If they don't see it on the map, they're not gonna ask, they're just gonna assume it's not there. But yeah, world maps are, of course, pretty interesting. I like leaving them on the table when the game starts, because it reminds them where they are in the world, and maybe I would like label something with the dry erase markers so they like see what has changed, are there any migrations or anything. And as always, encounter maps are on the other side for me. For a more modern approach, I had maps. Yes, it is payday to one of the banks, but I used it as a map for bank robberies, and that in combination with some other printed handouts gives the players all the information they need to rob a bank, or at least to try. For this particular scenario and what these handouts are, I wouldn't spoil that much of it because there is a video coming that goes into the heist in detail, so let's leave that for another time. Wow, as always, this is so messy. Okay, so while on the topic of utility, cheat sheets. I know they're not technically handouts that make your players feel more immersed in the world, but they're handouts that make your rules easier for everyone to understand. So I have Crown and Skull ones here. There's Savage Worlds, Tulu, Combat, Pulp Cthulhu. Like, I always do it, because why not? I mean, it makes it easier to reference something quick. The players then don't need to ask you for a rule clarification. Most of the time, the simpler they are, the better they are. So if you are in combat and someone wants to check something, they can check the cheat sheet and not interfere with you describing something to another player. And shockingly, most of the players never use them, and they will certainly cut you off and ask a question that is maybe written in the first line on the cheat sheet. Am I frustrated about it? No, of course not. They should ask questions. I just think it would be a great world where players actually look at the things that are on the table. People, if your GM makes a cheat sheet, read it. And it really is a minimum amount of information that you need to read and memorize to decrease the amount of questions by 80%. Oh my god, there's the North Holds from Crown and Skull. There is... You have to see this. This is... I don't have another camera to show you, but I have a ton of these things. A ton. Every time I run a session, I go and print out stuff. These are all small maps from modules from Call of Cthulhu. Good stuff. I mean, all of these things are always nice to have. So... now let's talk about some more interesting things. Items, item cards, item pictures, NPC cards, things that you can give to your players so they know they have something in their inventory or they can use as a form of a trophy. In our game, I created 3 special magical items for my players. Each of them got one for a certain mission or for a certain big achievement where they showed their maximum potential in a certain direction that their character is being evolved in. So, for example, our monk got the rose gauntlets, 2 sentient gauntlets that are kind of evil and want to kill all divine spellcasters. So he's trying to tame them and start a relationship with them. And of course, AI was just in its roots back then, so I tried making an image. That's why they're so small, because if you upscale them, they don't look as nice. But yeah, I would really draw all the stylistic stuff that you would need for this item to really have some personality on the card. And it's just drawing, it's doodling, you know? The same type of doodling that I did in my video about single page preparation. You can check that out somewhere here if you want as well. Then the Light Eater, the staff that harnesses the power of lighting, but yet if you deal damage to its holder, he can teleport and become invisible for a couple of rounds. Don't remember the exact mechanic, but I remember it was strong. It was really overpowered. Yet our sorcerer was so squishy that even with this stuff, he was very, very near death most of the time. And Snowflake. Snowflake was the first one that I did. I don't have the little picture. I'll try to find it on my computer and put it on the screen. But Snowflake was a sword found in Feywild, which was known to change its shape. And at the beginning, it would change its shape wildly into different weapons until it is soulbound to its wearer, and then the one wearing it can change the shape as a free action. Pretty broken, much fun. So I know it is a bit of an overkill, but whenever I have inspiration to work with NPCs, I would just start making a ton of NPCs and they would all have these cards. On one side they would have the face and the description of the NPC. On the other, there you would have some background about the character. I would say that it is almost like a handout, but I wouldn't hand it out right away. Maybe if they meet someone really well, I would hand out the card. Why I'm mentioning this then? Because, for example, we had this girl show up, and I would write her abilities on the back. So now, if player characters are in trouble and they're fighting someone and the girl is with them, I can give someone else this so they can kind of manage this NPC. Overall, I think it would be easier not to do all the secret stuff in the back, but just give a short description of who this NPC is, and if they become close with someone, give them that card so they know that they can rely on that NPC. Would I do it now? Probably not. I'm doing things different now, but I guess it was worth mentioning. Now I would probably just make a card like this, just showing who the NPC is, maybe put a name underneath, that's something like that, maybe a sentence or two in the back. This is actually my gnome character that I'm playing in that Pathfinder 1 campaign that my friend is running, and it has a little gnome hat, because he's a little gnome. Remember when I said character sheets are kind of like handouts? Well, I did make these passports for our made-up version of our country, and these passports had like stats and some free pages for you to write in, and the players would pick these semi-randomly, and there would be some secret instructions in here as well. But it's still like a character sheet. It took like 5 minutes per passport to make. And how much does it add to the lore of the world? Now you've seen the passport, now you saw how it looks from the outside, from the inside. It ties you more to the character, to the world, to everything around you. I think it is so little effort, and they don't need to be, like, none of these are like professionally made. It's just a printer, some cardboard, some glue. It's kind of worth it. I mean, at least for me. I know a lot of people are not okay with like prepping for hours, but how I do it is, today I make the design. Tomorrow, while I'm commuting to some other place, I print it out. The next day I glue one, and I interleave it with my other responsibilities. We are playing on Sunday usually. At the end of the week, I end up with some handouts that just fill people with joy. Then there are regular paper handouts. So your players go to a library and try to find some stuff. Well, there is a ton of these, like things that you can print out. And doing these just printed out handouts wasn't really my thing. The reason why I started doing them is because I wanted to translate the handouts that are in the book. I wouldn't just turn around the module, for example, for Call of Cthulhu or something, and show them what is written, because it was in English. It broke verisimilitude a bit. So what I do usually is find a website that extracts text from an image, extract the text from the handouts, find a way to translate it into your language, like either by asking AI to do it. It actually does translations very well, or using Google Translate, which is sometimes not that great. Then find a font that is like almost like a written text, or if you have a handout that looks like it is typed, well, find a font that is similar and supports any special characters if you have it in your language. So just paste the text, correct some mistakes, and it's ready to be printed out. Your players will love it, and reading it in your own language really adds something to the game. I know some people say it doesn't really work for them that well, but try it out. Try it out, talk to your players, see if you can somehow get your language into your game. Of course, don't be afraid to add your own things on the maps that you give to your players. And don't be afraid to leave props and envelopes around the house. So, for example, this one letter was found underneath the table in the room, and the players would read the nicely written letter, and then while researching some other place in game, one of the players actually remembered, hey, is there something in the trash in this room? And I said, I don't know, go check the trash. And they didn't believe that I'm really like referring to the trash in our house. But actually, when they went there and put their hand into the garbage, they found the draft of the same letter from the same place. So those little moments, I know it is horrible to make your players dig through garbage, but the amount of satisfaction and like excitement when they actually find something in the real world, it goes beyond like what you can do with just words. And I really like it. That's why I do it. That's why all the manuals that they find in game, like, look at this. This is a manual for casting a ritual in Pathfinder. It's mechanics plus some little flair. But this cover is tied to the in-game lore. And just doing this, like, look how simple that is. It's nothing. It's like just a child's drawing. This took like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes to write the stuff inside and like 1 minute to draw this. And they love it. They keep it with them. They take it home. They research it. That's what you want. You want players to feel like kids, finding something precious and like analyzing it, exploring it, trying to find every secret message, every secret thing, every Easter egg. Yeah, words cannot describe how much I love this stuff. So, on the topic of leaving physical things around the house, the next video will be about how to step up from decorating the room over paper props and handouts all the way to three-dimensional things that are left around the house. So there you go, my dear friends. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this series. So a ton of stuff is happening really, and if you want to stay up to date, consider joining our Discord. Let's make something wonderful out of that, and consider subscribing. So yeah, I will now go and feed all these handouts to the big bird, and I really advise you go and print more, because the bird gets hungry real fast. And with that, I bid you
farewell, keepers. Yes, feed me props, my fellow patrons. Earshot, Mr. GM, Wizard Lizard. Thank you for all your support.